All right, for the first video today, we're going to be talking about Rules Cyclopedia Dungeons and Dragons Dwarf. That is right. Remember, this is basic, not even first edition, basic edition Dungeons and Dragons where race is class. So let's find out, is the dwarf just a stumpy fighter or does it do more than that? We'll find out here in just a moment. All right. Got our wonderful Rules Cyclopedia book. And by the way, I want to thank all the folks who are like new to the channel that are here just because we're talking about Rules Cyclopedia. These read-throughs probably aren't as much for you, though. I absolutely appreciate you being here. These are kind of more for the new folks. So I say that because if you know somebody who's a 5e player or plays some other game, and you're like, man, you really should try out Rules Cyclopedia, point them to these videos. You guys already know what's up. You correct me a lot in the chat, in the comments. Half the time you don't timestamp it, so I don't know what you're talking about, but that's okay. Let's move on. All right, here's the dwarf.
There he is.
All right, so right off the bat, one of the things we're going to notice about the dwarf is it's basically a fighter, right?
Oh, wait a minute. Right there. Biggest first difference.
Yep.
Constitution 9 or better. Oh, man. I missed that.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. And that's one of the things I was going to point out. Good catch. It's the demi-humans are the only ones to have ability score requirements. So what do you get for being a dwarf? Well, you have to have Constitution 9 or better, and your prime requisite is strength. And if you remember from the other videos what that means, or if you haven't watched them, what that means is that if you have a strength of 13 to 15, you get a 5% bonus to your experience points. If you have a strength of 16 to 18, you get a 10% bonus. Notice, unlike second edition, you don't get a +1. You don't have a 19 in here anywhere. Of course, it'd be con, but still, the basic goes from 3 to 18, end of story. You get 1d8 per level, so there's our hit dice, so 1d8 hit points per level up to 9th level, so same as the fighter, right? Mm-hmm. And then starting with 10th level, you get +3 per level, and the constitution adjustments no longer apply, so it's exactly like the fighter. So what's a max on that? 9 times 8 is 72. Let's not count constitution bonuses because I don't want to get in that kind of crazy math. And then after that, it'd be 75, 78, yada, yada, because you don't get any more bonuses. Go up over here. Maximum level is 12. Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah. No. They do leveling differently for the demi-humans in this game. Well, in basic. So, yeah, max level is 12, but then you got, like, tiers. You
effectively still have levels. I kind of, it's one of the things that I don't fully understand the rationale behind it. Maybe they just want demi-humans to be different or whatever. Because for all intents and purposes, you still have levels. Yeah, the what do you call it? The saving throw chart, it just jumps faster. So you're effectively at level 12. You effectively have saving throws of a level 30-something human. Your combat, and I think we'll show that here, your combat goes up. Instead of by level, you have these A, B, C, D, E.
Yeah.
Not levels.
Yeah, that's why I call them tiers, because I don't know what else to call them.
Tiers is a good way of calling it. So, oh, hey. Oh, now I know what I'm doing. Whew. Had to get that on the screen. So, yeah, anywho, what do they get? They have any armor and shields. They can use anything. So, again, like the fighter. Now, weapons, here's an interesting little difference because they're little stumpies, right?
Yep.
Any small or medium melee weapon, short bows and crossbows, but not longbows.
That makes sense. I mean, they literally can't use a longbow. It's too big. It's taller. It's way taller than them.
Sorry,
I mean, longbows are really tall, but dwarves are kind of short, so that's not going to work out. I get that.
What if you had two dwarves, one holding the front, one pulling?
If they do that, they have to wear a trench coat. No, and like a halberd or whatever. I can't see a dwarf holding that.
I can see him holding it. I can see him using it like a spear.
Maybe so, yeah, but not swinging it around effectively.
I mean, to be fair, you're really not going to knock him over, are you? I mean, he's like a little brick.
It's like a weeble wobble. They get knocked over. They don't fall down.
But they don't fall down. Well, special abilities. He gets fighter maneuvers, lance attack, and set spear versus charge at first level.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And at 660,000 XP, he gets fighter combat options. Again, very similar. When we get into the combat options and so forth, you're going to see it's very similar to the fighter. Half damage from spells at 1.4 million XP. Notice it
sounds
doesn't
like
say
a lot.
save for half. It says half damage from spells.
Yes. No save necessary. If you take damage from a spell, you have that damage.
Yep. And we'll look at what we'll do is I think a good comparison is we'll look at the fighter experience chart when I get done with this box, and we'll see what 1.4 million is for the fighter, as in terms of, so what equivalent level is that?
Okay.
Has infravision,
Sure.
which I haven't seen rules on yet. So when we get there, we'll find out what infravision is. I don't want to start blurting out what the rule is when I don't know in basic. Extra languages, speaks dwarf, gnome, goblin, and kobold.
Okay.
So he's your linguist. Your dwarf is your linguist.
Well, we haven't gotten to the elf yet. We don't know.
That's fair. That's fair. And a 1 in 3 chance to detect traps, sliding walls, sloping corridors, and new construction.
So he's your wish.com version of a thief?
Yeah, so here's what I've talked to people about. I was told that most people, and you guys in chat can correct me if you're like, no, that's not true. This is just, I've talked to a couple people, so this is just anecdotal. They said they don't use detect traps like the thief. They use it in terms of construction. So if it's like a piece of concrete, a stone that'll move, yes. If it's a tripwire that's hidden inside, a door latch, no. Yeah.
To be fair, that sounds like a homebrew rule, which I understand. But it probably works the same as the thief, except that the thief has a better odds. I mean, even at first level, thief has better odds than 1 in 3.
1 in 3 chance, so that's 33%.
Yeah, and the thief I think starts at 42.
What's it? Find traps, 10. He doesn't get 33 until basically it's the equivalent of level 6 thief.
Oh wow, never mind. Okay, I thought it started a lot better. All right,
but it never goes higher than that. It's just 1 in 3.
Yeah.
So, all right, where's my dwarf? And then we already read the rest. So let's go look at that 1.4 million. And like I said, let's compare it to the fighter because I think it makes the most sense. Fighter experience. So 1.4 million. So effectively the equivalent of like 18th, 19th level.
I'll go at 19. Yeah.
So for us being more second edition players, where again 20 is not the cap by any stretch of the imagination, but it's kind of considered like a soft cap. Like, well, I made 20th level. I won the game, right? This one notably goes up to 36. So we're talking, it's about
a little over
halfway. Yeah. So, and in terms of just direct experience points, I don't even think it is halfway, because it's 1.4 million and 2.8 is right here at 31. So, but yeah, it's in level terms, it's a little over halfway up. But to get half damage to all spells,
that's big.
That includes magic missile. Magic missile doesn't do a lot of damage, but it automatically does damage.
Yeah, it automatically hits you.
Where's thief? Okay, and more back to the dwarf. All right, going here. We already read most of these. What's this up here? Oh, let's read about the dwarves. A dwarf is a short and stocky, standing about 4 foot tall and weighing about 150 pounds. Male dwarves wear long beards. Their skin is ruddy earth-colored, and their hair is dark brown, gray, or black. Stubborn but practical, dwarves are fond of good food and drink. They value craftsmanship and love gold. Dwarves are sturdy fighters and are resistant to magic.
We've learned that.
Yeah. Although the dwarf class is different from the fighter class in many ways, their tasks are the same. Makes sense? Dwarves are only able to attain a maximum of 12 experience levels at best. However, this is balanced by the dwarf's special abilities, such as the ability to see in dark, detection abilities, and better saving throws. Dwarves are formidable fighters no matter what their level. And dwarven families are organized into clans. Okay, we already talked about strength, get hit dice, weapons, okay, special abilities, good fighters, we already talked about that. Okay, combat options, so we already talked about that. Ooh. With multiple with the multiple attacks combat option, the dwarf can make 2 attacks at 666,000 experience and 3 at 220,000 experience. I can't wait till we get to the, sorry, 2.2 million. I can't wait till we get to the combat section.
Combat options, yeah.
It's going to be a few weeks. So, look at this. We now have charts. So you only get to 12th level, right? But then at 800,000 experience, you now use attack rank D. I do not remember what page those were on, but if you remember in the first video when we were looking at character creation, We showed the attack matrix, and you'll notice that it talked about levels, but then it had A, B, C, D, E, F, going all the way down to whatever letter. That's effectively leveling.
Why they didn't do it that way, I have no idea, but
Yeah, neither do
here
I.
we are.
Just to make demi-humans different and weird, and nobody wants to play them because nobody likes a demi-human.
I can't say nobody. I mean, I'm part of that nobody, but other people do. And I can see why, especially in basic. I can see why. I want fighter with more stuff. Okay, here you go.
Yeah, I like demi-humans when they are actually treated like by the game master or dungeon master, not as just a human in a funny skin suit. When I'm actually treated as the personification of a stereotype, which is what demi-humans are supposed to be. I have a video on that's really old video, got some audio issues, but it still gets a bunch of views. It's called Races. I think it's called Race versus Species or something like that. Long before even WotC came up with that nonsense. But I talk about that there. In Dungeons and Dragons, maybe not in your role-playing game of choice, demi-humans are supposed to be the personification of tropes or stereotypes. He can use the smash parry combat options, but cannot use the disarm option against a giant opponent.
That makes sense.
Giant-sized opponent is any monster which is described as being a giant animal, a gargantua, or is otherwise, in the DM's opinion, enormous. I love that. DM's opinion.
Yeah.
All right, special defenses. Experienced dwarves become more resistant to magic. When the dwarf reaches 1.4 million experience points, the dwarf automatically takes only half damage from any damage-causing spell or spell-like effect. You know what we didn't look at? Let's just slide over here real quickly.
Wait,
Look at those saving throws, dude. Actually, spell isn't that good. At least to start. Holy crap, it ends up great. But to start, it's a 12. I mean, Death Ray and Poison, magic wands are...
Well, compared to even a magic user started at 15.
That's fair.
So,
that is fair.
Better than that.
Yeah. I grant you that. Divide the rolled damage by 2 and round down. So, you don't even round normally. If the effect allows a saving throw, a successful roll indicates that it only takes a quarter damage. Divide the roll damage by 4 and round down. If the result is half a point of damage or less, character takes 1 point of damage. Oh, so you always have to take a minimum of 1. That's what it's saying there.
Yeah. And I find it funny that they made special exemption for Dragon Breath.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. It says spell-like effects, which would include Dragon Breath, such as from a magical item or strange monster powers as a beholder's eyes, but not including Dragon's Breath, which I find odd.
Well, maybe the Dragon Breath isn't considered directly
No,
magical.
it is considered a spell-like ability. That's why they had to make an exception.
Well, I mean, it has its own saving throw, though, so that maybe it's because of the second edition in me, because if you remember in second edition, you start at the top and go down, and the first one that makes sense for the spell, that's where you go, and spell is always last. So I don't see personally, I just don't see Dragon Breath as spell, because you don't roll a saving throw versus spell for it. But
I understand. But maybe it's a basic thing. But in first and second edition, I believe it is considered a spell-like effect.
Well, it has its own saving throw, though, still. But again, I'd have to see. Yeah, I'd have to see how it's worded. See, where are we? Oh, infravision. Infravision is the ability to see heat and the lack of heat. Dwarves have infravision in addition to normal sight and can see 60 feet in the dark. Now, 60 feet, when we get into the movement section, if I remember correctly, isn't just 60 feet. I think it's 60 feet in a dungeon and 60 yards out in the world, if I remember correctly. But the base distance is 60 feet. And that's one of the things that's going to happen a lot with combat ranges, time, and so forth, is dungeon time is going to be different than wilderness time. Or distance. If I remember correctly, everything changes from feet to yards outside. Including weapon ranges, by the way. So your bow, if it says 60-foot range, is 60 foot in a dungeon, but 60 yards, so 180 feet outside.
Okay.
Infravision does not work in the presence of normal and magical light. With infravision, warm things appear red and cold things appear blue. A creature could be seen as a red shape, leaving faint reddish footprints. A cold pool of water would seem a deep blue color.
Sure.
Characters with infravision can even see items or creatures the same temperature as the surrounding air, such as a table or skeleton, since airflow will inevitably show the viewer their borders, outlining them in a faint, lighter blue tone. Wow, that is really, really specific.
It is. But hey, that probably came up a lot. It's a skeleton, it's room temperature, it's not moving, whatever. It should not be visible. I get that, so they had to write it in.
Yeah, I still think it should be harder, but either way,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter to me. Until they move, they'll be very faint to the eye. Once they start moving, they become blurry but very obvious light blue figures. Infravision isn't good enough to read by. Okay, so
Sure.
letters apparently on a page don't have a different heat
Yeah,
signature.
wind doesn't treat them differently than the page they're on, so I get it. Yeah.
A character can use his infravision to recognize an individual only if they're within a 10-foot distance, unless the individual is very, very distinctive. For example, an 8-foot tall or walking with a crutch.
Sure.
So, I mean, if I recognize Heathen Dog's gait, then maybe I can recognize him, right? So in addition to common and alignment tongue, a dwarf can speak the language of dwarf, gnome, goblin, and kobold race. Again, at least until we get to elf, he's your linguist. He's your dungeon linguist.
There you go.
Dwarves can sometimes detect traps, specifically traps built into stonework or heavy construction, not other types of traps such as rope traps in the
Okay,
forest
then there you go.
or spring out needles built into jewelry box. So I guess they were just telling me the rule.
Yeah.
They can also detect sliding walls, sloping corridors, and new constructions. Why would the new construction be important?
Well, it's important if someone is actually blocking off a passageway to make it look like a wall. And the dwarf can say, hang on a minute, this part of the wall is new.
Mm-hmm.
Then every other wall in the room, this one was done recently. Everything else here is years old. Why is that?
Yep. If your dwarf character wants to search for such things in an area, tell the DM. You have a 1 in 3 chance to find them. The DM will roll a d6, and a 1 or 2 will indicate success if there's anything to find. Result of 3 or 6 means your dwarf detects nothing. And this is one of the reasons why I disagree with the folks who always, you have to roll in the open. It's the only fair way. No, it's not. I mean, I'm not against it if that's what you want to do at your table. I'm definitely a roll behind the screens kind of person because I don't want you to see the number that I roll when I say you find nothing.
Yeah, if I roll a 1 and I say, if you roll a 1 and I say you find nothing, what?
Well, then you know nothing's there, right?
And you know nothing's there, but yeah, I don't want you to know for sure. You're not supposed to know for sure.
You may check once for each trap, sliding wall, sloping corridor, or new construction. You must tell the DM if you want to look for anything. The detection is never automatic. Thank God.
There you go.
I hate passive detection because I never remember. I should have had a chance to roll back there for the secret door.
And you would have. Yeah, you would have.
But isn't it like half elves and elves in 2nd edition have that passive thing? Like it's 1 in 6 passive, 3 in 6 active or something like that?
Yeah, I don't do that passive shit. If you're not saying you're looking, then you're not looking.
Yeah, Sly Blue, I just disagree with that. Again, you do your table how you want. I disagree with that. And I've had people actually tell me like, well, if you weren't afraid, you would just roll in the open. No, I roll behind a screen because that's what it's for. Okay, if you don't trust me, you probably shouldn't be at my table. That's the way I see it. I have no reason to fudge dice. I have no reason to lie, but I'm not going to roll out in the open for folks unless it's something really exciting. Sometimes it's like, okay, here we go. You ready for this? But I get it. I mean, other people, if that's the way you want to do it, go for it. Just that's not for me. But I've had people yell at me is my issue. Or tell me you're just not a confident game master because you hide behind a screen. Okay. When a dwarf reaches name level, so 9th level, he is usually referred to as a dwarf lord or dwarf lady. How can you tell the difference?
One has a beard and one doesn't. According to this, it said earlier males have beards.
Yeah, but it didn't explicitly say the females.
Well, yes, but it wouldn't explicitly say male if shut up.
He may build a stronghold unless he has forsaken his dwarven clan and is living among humans. It should be an underground cavern complex located in either mountains or hills. If he's living among humans, he may build any sturdy stone dwelling in the human fashion instead, but will still want for there to be an underground complex connected to it. You remember the wizard tower in the dungeon?
The wizard dungeon, yeah.
Now you have the dwarf. So the
Dwar-
dwarf builds his stronghold, dungeon to the wizard tower.
Oh. That's like chocolate and peanut butter right there.
Right?
A
And the
wizard and a dwarf together.
Yeah, and the dwarf doesn't care because he's already magic resistant, right?
Yeah. It's like, I don't care, man.
The character may hire only dwarven mercenaries, but may hire specialists and hirelings of other races. Notice that it doesn't
Okay.
have anything else in here. It doesn't have that whole
No.
traveling dwarf or domain
Nope.
dwarf or whatever. Just,
Nope, that
we're
is
done.
it. All they get is you can make a stronghold. That's it. Only humans get the versatility of landowning and traveling.
So, all right. So, we only have just for folks who are watching this on video. Normally, we do this on a full live stream, but I went members only this time because of some other stuff working around this. So, we don't have a lot of comments here. I did mention one for us. Sly Blue Demon, if you want to put that on the screen real quickly, just to show people that, hey, we do actually have somebody watching. But there we go. But I kind of answered that. And again, I get it. I'm not against people who do that. I just don't like when people point to me and act like, well, you know, and maybe you're lying. Well, if you think that, there's the door. So, why can't I make this stop sharing? There we go. Now you stop sharing. All right. I just want to say again that these videos, I love the fact that we're getting a bunch of new viewers watching this, and a shout out to everybody who's new to the channel. If you're a fan of Basic, and you already know more about Basic than we do, which is pretty apparent because we understand Dungeons & Dragons, but we're kind of learning it as we're reading at the same time.
I haven't played Basic in 30 years.
Right, yeah. I played in 83, and I don't even know if it was BECME or BX. It was one of those two. But really love it if you could share these videos with people who don't play Basic. Maybe you've got somebody who's trying to get into the hobby and he's being suckered into that Pathfinder or 5e crowd. It'd be great if you say, no, check out. There's some great videos. Hopefully we think they're great. Videos on Rule Cyclopedia. Check those out and see if that's a game for you. That would be awesome. Share with your friends. And as Heathen Dog likes to put on the screen, he knows we have a bunch of other ones, but he likes to put up there so that you can send us just the tip.